felt like I was helping people.
Imagine a man who wears the white coat of mercy but carries the shadow of death in his hands, a man who promised to save lives, yet secretly chose who would live and who would never see another sunrise. This is not a tale of fiction. This is the chilling true story of Charles Cullen, the nurse who became one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Born into a broken home, haunted by trauma, rejection, and an unshakable darkness, Cullen would walk a path drenched in secrecy. To the world, he was just another nurse, but behind the hospital curtains, in the silence of dim corridors, he was the angel of death. Tonight, we step inside his life, from his childhood wounds to the first chilling taste of murder, and as the story unfolds, you will see how the man trusted with life turned into the monster who dealt in. By the age of 9, the darkness inside him began to surface. He tried to end his own life, swallowing chemicals, harming himself, desperately crying for help no one could hear. The first attempt failed, but the seed of despair was already planted deep in his mind. School was no escape. He was bullied, mocked for being quiet, fragile, and poor. Teachers called him strange. Classmates called him invisible. Charles found comfort not in people, but in silence, in books, in isolation. Charles Cullen was born on February 22, 1960, in West Orange, New Jersey, the youngest of 8 children, in a home filled with poverty, silence, and sorrow. From the very beginning, life seemed unfair to him. When Charles was just 7 months old, his father died suddenly, leaving the family broken. His mother struggled to raise 8 children alone. She worked endlessly, while Charles grew up in a shadow of loneliness. And then, tragedy struck again. When he was just 17, his mother died in a terrible car accident. She was the only person Charles felt connected to, and losing her shattered him completely. At the hospital, when he asked to see her body, the staff refused. That moment carved a deep scar in his heart, a resentment against hospitals, against authority, against life itself. After her death, Charles dropped out of high school. Lost and broken, he turned to the military, hoping to find a place where he belonged. But even there, he was mocked, bullied, and humiliated by fellow soldiers. He tried again to take his own life, and once again, he failed. It seemed as if death surrounded him, yet never chose to take him, and perhaps, in his twisted mind, Charles began to believe, if death would not take him, maybe it was his destiny to bring death to others.
So, that didn't stop me having the same opinion of Amy, which is that she's a good nurse, that she's a caring nurse, and that she did it because she felt it was the right thing to do.
1987, St. Barnabas Medical Center, New Jersey. Charles Cullen finally found what looked like stability, a job as a nurse. To the world, he was kind, calm, almost invisible, but deep inside, the storm was ready to break. It began with temptation, the power to hold life, and the power to end it. Cullen discovered the hospital's drug cabinets, filled with powerful medicines like digoxin and insulin, medicines that, in the wrong dose, could kill silently, without leaving a trace. Heartbeat sound grows louder. One night, a patient lay helpless in his care. Cullen injected a dose, far stronger than necessary. Minutes later, the patient's heartbeat flatlined. No alarms were raised. No suspicion fell on him. It looked like a natural death. This was only the beginning. Cullen began experimenting, a hidden game of life and death. Sometimes he gave too much medicine, sometimes too little. Some patients survived, many did not, but in every case, he was the silent hand deciding their fate. Soon, deaths at St. Barnabas began to rise. And in that moment, Cullen felt something he had never felt before: control, a twisted satisfaction, a dark relief, as if, for the first time, death finally listened to him. Unexplained heart failures, sudden collapses, strange patterns, but hospitals rarely questioned him. Instead, whenever suspicions grew, Cullen simply resigned and moved to another hospital. Like a shadow, he drifted from one ward to another, leaving behind a trail of mysterious deaths. 9 hospitals in total, 9 institutions that failed to stop him. And yet, through it all, he remained unseen. Doctors trusted him. Families thanked him. Patients smiled at him, never knowing that the man holding their hand was secretly deciding if they would live or never see another morning. He even poisoned saline bags that would be used on dozens of patients. His method was silent. His signature, invisible, and that made him untouchable. Heartbeat monitor beeps, then flatlines. After his first murders, Charles Cullen had tasted the forbidden, but soon, it became an obsession, a compulsion he could no longer control. Through the 1990s, Cullen drifted from hospital to hospital, 9 in total, and in each one, patients kept dying mysteriously. Cullen's colleagues began whispering, why were so many patients dying in his care? Why did codes, emergency crashes, always happen when he was on shift? But hospitals didn't want scandals. Instead of reporting him to the police, They quietly asked him to resign. One signature, one resignation, and Cullen would simply walk away. Free to kill again in another hospital, music sharpens, faint screams in background. By now, Charles Cullen claimed he killed only to end suffering, but the truth was darker. Not all his patients were terminal, some were recovering, some were young, some were about to go home the very next day. But Charles decided otherwise. He was no angel of mercy, he was death itself, walking the halls in white scrubs. Investigators would later estimate that Cullen may have killed over 400 patients, making him the most prolific serial killer in American history. Yet for years, he remained hidden, protected by silence, protected by hospitals that feared the truth more than his crimes. Imagine this: a loved one, admitted for care, smiling, hopeful, and the very nurse assigned to save them becomes their executioner. That was Charles Cullen's reality. He was not healing, he was hunting, and every hospital that let him walk away left the door open for the next. For years, Charles Cullen moved like a ghost. Hospitals stayed silent. Families stayed blind, and patients kept dying. But eventually, whispers turned into questions. At Somerset Medical Center, where Cullen worked in the early 2000s, nurses noticed a disturbing pattern: healthy patients suddenly collapsing, strange medication records, and one man always nearby, Charles Cullen. Investigators began to dig. They found something shocking. Cullen had accessed drug cabinets hundreds of times, far more than any other nurse. He withdrew medicines like digoxin, insulin, lidocaine, often for patients who didn't even need them. The numbers didn't lie, but catching him required more than suspicion. Then came a breakthrough. A fellow nurse, Amy Loughran, noticed the irregularities. She was a close friend of Cullen, but something didn't feel right. Secretly, she agreed to help investigators. Wearing a wire, she spoke to Cullen, pushing him, questioning him, while the police listened from the shadows. Finally, he slipped. In a quiet conversation, Charles admitted to using those drugs, and to giving doses he shouldn't have. It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough. On December the 12th, 2003, police surrounded Cullen at a diner where he met Amy. The angel of death was finally caught. Police sirens fade in, then cut abruptly. At first, Cullen stayed silent, but when he realized the evidence stacked against him, he confessed. 40 murders, he admitted. Though investigators believed the true number was closer to 400, he described calmly how he chose his victims, how he slipped poison into their veins, and then walked away as if nothing had happened. In 2006, Charles Cullen was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences, ensuring he would never see freedom again. No possibility of parole, no escape. Music shifts, dark but conclusive. And so, the man once trusted with life, the nurse who promised healing, became America's most prolific serial killer. Charles Cullen is still alive today, sitting in a New Jersey prison. His legacy: not mercy, not care, but fear. The reminder that sometimes, the greatest monsters don't hide in the shadows. They walk among us, wearing the mask of kindness, inside the very place we trust the most, the hospital. Charles Cullen's story is not just about one man, it is about the cracks in a system meant to protect us. Hospitals knew something was wrong, yet they stayed silent. They let him walk away, again and again, and in that silence, hundreds of lives were lost. We ask ourselves, why? Was it fear of lawsuits? Fear of scandal? Or simple neglect? Whatever the reason, their silence became his weapon. But beyond the institutions, this story forces us to face a darker truth. Evil does not always come with a warning. It does not always wear a mask of horror. Sometimes, it wears a smile. Sometimes, it wears a nurse's uniform. Charles Cullen sits today behind prison walls, serving life after life, but no sentence can return the hundreds who trusted him, and never returned home. This story leaves us with a chilling reminder: trust is fragile, and the very places we feel safe can hide the deepest dangers. The angel of death was not a myth. He was real, he was human, and for 16 long years, he walked freely among us. This was the story of Charles Cullen. This was just one story of death hiding in plain sight. There are many more waiting to be told. Hit that subscribe button if you dare to step deeper into the shadows.